Namaskar, a warm welcome to everybody who is watching and listening. This is episode 9 of Upaj Candid Conversations with Young Maestros. This is an interview series conceived by my good friend Shri Anirban Bhattacharjee, along with Shri Swarnabha Gupta and me. Today's guest is Dr. Subhadra Desai, or ma'am, or Subhadra Didi as I like to call her. Um, she is a senior disciple of Pandit Madhup Mudgal. She is part of the faculty of Gandharva Mahavidyalaya. She she had in fact been the first recipient of the Maniman Fellowship, which enabled her to take advanced talim from stalwarts like Pandit Dinkar Kaikri and Vidushi Malini Rajurkar. She is a researcher, and we shall go on to that in the course of the interview. She is a scholar, she is an author, she has written 2 books. And apart from being a researcher, a scholar, and a performer, she has also been involved with music administration. For example, she has worked with Center for Cultural Resources and Training. She has worked with India Habitat Center, India International Center. She has been, in fact, a jury member at the CCRT for national scholarships and has been on the National Selection Committee for Republic Day Parade under the aegis of the Ministry of Defense for the past 2 years. She has also been a jury member on the board of Fulbright Fellowship in the year 2016. And she is also the first female guest that we are hosting on Upaj. Uh, so, Namaskar Didi, how are you feeling today? Kemon achen?
Thank you,
It is a
Chitrayu.
pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me here to talk with you and your friends. And it's a pleasure to be here.
I must also add that Didi is also one of my gurus because I've learned quite a few things for her, in fact, many things from her. And we shall come on to that later. Now, we shall go straight into the interview now. You were born in a Bengali family in Delhi, right? You were part of the Probashi Bangali community that is settled in and around Chittaranjan Park, I presume.
No. I was born
Okay.
in Kollani. I was born in
Oh,
Kollani,
okay.
and yes, and my father was working there. And later, when my mother started teaching here in Delhi, and my father also got a transfer, we came to Delhi, and then thereafter, my journey in Delhi began at the around the age of 2.5 to 3.
Wow. Great. Fantastic. So you have lived almost your entire life in Delhi. You work from Delhi. Delhi is your geographical base, right?
Yes, well, almost.
So did your musical journey begin in Kolkata or in Delhi?
No, in Delhi, of course.
Right.
I was
So how did your
about
journey
5.
begin? Who initiated you into music?
My parents, of course, they took me to one of their friends' daughter who was a music teacher, and I was about 5 years old. So I
Wow.
started learning at that time, and that was, of course, informal training. And then I was taken to a music school which was close by, and at the age of 12, I came to Gandharva Mahavidyalaya.
Right.
And thereafter, my formal training began in classical music.
So about your informal training before that, back when you were a toddler, say between the age of 5 till the age of 12. So how was
Yes.
the method like? What were you taught? How did you deal with it? Did you enjoy your lessons? Or were you a mischievous child? Did you play truants?
I think I loved singing, and my mother, uh, I think, knew that. So she always took me to learn to sing and to learn and to listen. And I loved singing. I think that was the main thing. And of course, Sare Gama Padanisa everyone teaches, and then short Sargam Geet and Lakshan Geet and small bandishes and 2 2 3 3 alaps, like everybody learns. So it was like that, and it went on for a long time. Of course, till this age of say 13 years, because around 14 years of age I learned from my guru, Pandit Madhur
Right.
Kodkal ji.
But your lessons started with Hindustani music when you were, even as a Bengali girl, you started your journey as a student of music with Hindustani music. Because generally,
Yes, she
Bengali girls start learning
uh,
Robindra Sangeet and other forms.
my first teacher, who was a Bengali, my parents' friend's daughter. She's a very well-known Rabindra Sangeet singer now, and that time she was young, and she taught me sargam and all, and as well as Rabindra Sangeet. And then for a few years, I was learning Rabindra Sangeet from her, and sometimes she would teach me sargam and things like that.
Correct. So now we come to Gandharva Mahavidyalaya. You have been attached to the Gandharva Mahavidyalaya in Delhi for the greater part of your life. So how did it all begin? You took your first lessons at Gandharva Mahavidyalaya from Pandit Vinay Chandra Maudgalya and Srimati Padma Dev. What was the
Yes.
experience like? What were the first lessons that were taught to you? Formal lessons.
Well, my father was searching for a good institution around where we were staying that time, and he took me to almost all the big institutions in Delhi, but somehow I was probably destined to come to Gandharva Mahavidyalaya in Delhi, because when I was brought there, I loved being there immediately, because in all the classrooms, there was music, vocal
Oh,
music,
fantastic.
instrumental music, tabla, dance. So it was a kind of a heavenly
Right,
atmosphere.
absolutely.
I really loved being there as a child. And I was taken in immediately by Pandit Vinay Chandra Modgali ji, Bhai ji as we called him, and very loving and affectionate person. In fact, within a month, the institute was closing for vacations, for summer vacations.
Okay.
So within a month of my joining the Vidyalaya, and he called me and he gave me a tanpura, and he said, I said,
Wow.
Bhaiji, tanpura, huh? And he said, ghar le ja, take it home. I said, and he said, abhyas karna. So I said, I shall take it home. So he said, yes, go take it home and practice every day. So I sort
Wow.
of, it was like getting a great award, and I, took it in my arms, and my house was nearby. And when I took it home, my mother said, what have you done? You've brought a tanpura. Who is going to tune it for you?
Right.
And I was so young, I didn't even know that one has to tune a tanpura. So my father, I was about 12, and my
Right.
father, who used to play Israj at one time, he said, I
Oh,
will tune it for
fantastic.
you. And my father would tune it for me every day. And I loved singing with that. That became my most loved possession.
And companion and friend.
And yes.
Right. It's a very small age. 12 is a very tender age to play and do your riyaz on the tambura, the manual tambura.
Now at in the hindsight, I just I try to understand what played in Bhaiji's mind to
Right.
call, because they were so about maybe 400-500 students at the Vidyalaya
Right.
at that time. And I don't know what made him, just pick me. And he said, just give me a tanpura. And he said, you take it home and sing.
Wow.
So
Fantastic.
that love, that was an instant love that, grew and grew.
Fantastic. And he must have detected something extraordinary within you, even at that age.
Who knows?
Right. Now, thereafter, you went on to become one of the senior most disciples of Pandit Madhup Mutkal. What has the experience been like? Do you have any anecdote that you would like to share?
Learning from Pandit Madhup Mudgalji, we call him Bhaiya, and he was also young. He was
Right.
starting off in his own journey of performance at that time. He
Right.
was learning from Pandit Kumar Gandharva at that time. And I was among, say, 5-6 girls and boys who were learning from him, who started learning from him. And right from the beginning, there was no writing down. He will never give us, bandishes written down, or swaralipi is written down, or alap or tan written down. He would never give us. So
Right.
everything was, all the improvisations were done there and there, then and there. And that's how the process, began, and it went on. And one thing which connected me with my Guruji
Right.
was, he said once while teaching, he said, तानपुरा के साथ जो सबसे ज्यादा समय बिताए, ज्यादा से ज्यादा समय बिताएगा, गाना उसका होगा.
Correct.
So the Tanpura was the most cherished, entity
Right.
in our lives. I would go directly to the Vidyalaya from school and take a quick lunch, which my mother would provide early in the morning, and then just, go into a room, bring down a Tanpura, tune it as much as I could, and then start singing. So, and now I try to uh, understand what made me do that,
Right.
because probably the way he taught us, that sincerity in his teaching
Right.
to us, I think that seeped into us. And
Right.
that feeling for the Tanpura and that feeling for the classroom, we would be there before he came, open the windows and, clean the dirt on the instruments and then tune them before he came. And this was not taught.
Right.
This was,
It was
yes,
inculcated.
it was inculcated. And anecdotes, there are so many anecdotes. Like when I
Right.
after I once I was a member of the choir for many years, the Gandharva choir, and I used to
Right.
sing as a high soprano, singing in a very high
Okay.
pitch. And once we had gone to a 1 month long tour of Europe, and I was laughing aloud, and Bhaiya came in, my Guruji. He said, "Who's laughing?" And he knew I was the one. He said, "Gana gana hai na, itna cheek ke hasna nahi." And that was Ved Vakya for me. I
Right.
knew that if he's saying something, I have to follow. It was like that.
Right.
And later on, of course, when I started performing, and the performance, it just began. I never thought I would be a musician, a professional musician. I loved singing and I loved everything about music. But I never thought that I would be a professional musician, sit on the stage with two tanpuras behind me and with a tabla
Right.
and a harmonium. So when that started, and that, that I grew with that, it was not
Right.
planned. So once there was a big program, and many, I mean, around 6,000 audience.
Okay.
And I it was not a classical performance, it was called Bhakti Utsav. And
Okay.
artists from all over the country, they used to come and perform. And I was very fortunate to get an opportunity to sing there. So next day, and I was very, it was euphoric, singing in front of such a large gathering. And next day, when I went to my Guruji,
Mm.
he pointed out every little, things that, this must be corrected. This was not right. This
Right.
was not right. So this is how I have grown up. So he
Right.
would point out to every little details how he wanted me to perceive music.
Right.
And like when I completed my visharad,
Mm.
I topped in the
Okay.
national level. Yes, and that same year I went to Kolkata with my parents because they had retired from service. So my Pandit Vinay Chandra Modgali ji, my Guruji's father, he wrote a lovely letter to my mother saying, Rasgulla bhej do. We are so glad that she has made us proud. And my Guruji, Pandit Madhup Mudgalji, he wrote me a letter. And he wrote, Subhadra, अभी आवाज ठीक नहीं. सा में आ, रे में, ग में अ, म प ध में अ, नी में ई, अभ्यास करना. That's all he wrote to me. So these
Wow.
are the wonderful little things that my Guruji, he subtly, very subtly, he showed me the way.
Right. Absolutely. It only shows how lenient you have been with me.
Well, because you are already learning under a great guru,
Mm.
and you were just learning a little bit of my music.
Right.
So I knew that you are on the right track. That's why I didn't say
Thank
too
you.
much.
So it is the Gwalior style that is followed at the Gandharva Mahavidyalaya because Vinay Chandra ji learned from Vinayak Vadvardhan ji. So that is how the lineage goes. But Madhuv ji was also one of the prime disciples of Pandit Kumar Gandharva. And Kumar ji had an individualistic style. His gaiki had a unique sound. And you were just talking about tambura. Kumar ji was very particular about the tambura, all that I know. He was very particular about tuning it correctly, and he would not even enter the class unless the student had tuned it correctly. Even his own music was about pitch perfection. His own music was about shruti shuddham. The kind of sur that awaz lagane ka tarika, what is called, the kind of sur that he pursued was the stuff of legends. It was
Absolutely.
legendary.
Yes.
So, how have you tried to make it your own gaiki when you sing your music?
See, to make a very, very long story short, I would just want to mention a image that has stayed in my mind. I was very young, and that time Kumarji used to come to Delhi often to perform, and he had a performance in Fikki Auditorium. And my Guruji had told me, you just come 1.5 hour, 2 hours early, he said. So I didn't know what to expect, but I said, okay, Bhaiya has said, so I have to go. So I was there about 2 hours before the program would begin. And when I entered the auditorium, there was nobody, but the whole auditorium was lit. The AC was on. The curtains were drawn, they were not, there was no, the curtains were up. And
Right.
Kumarji was sitting on the stage, and with his tabla and harmonium as accompanying artists, and on behind him Bhaiya was tuning his tanpura, Kumarji's tanpura.
Okay.
And on the other tanpura, I think Kumarji's daughter was there. So I quietly went uh, inside the auditorium and I sat watching what was going on. You see, Kumarji just sat there and the tanpura were being tuned by my Guruji. And what was going on in Kumarji's mind? He was contemplating the swaras of the rag that he was going to sing. Just imagine 2 hours before the program started. And he was in no hurry. The harmonium में सा पर सा दे रखा है. And see, such great discipline. And I was witness to that. Thanks to my Guruji, because he wanted me to see that. And that impacted, that has stayed with me, you know. That the relationship with the Tanpura and the relationship with the rag, with the swaras of the rag that I am going to sing. And Kumarji would always meticulously plan his concerts, which rag he would sing, which bandishes. And in the beginning he would always say, ab ye rag gaunga, iske baad mein ye rag gaunga. And there are recordings of that. You must have heard. So right till the end, then फिर उसके बाद मैं एक भजन गाऊंगा. ऐसे करके वो he will the complete concert he would plan, and that would go on in his mind, and the tanpuras will play on behind him. And when the tabla and the harmonium would start playing with him, when they would play, it was like they were also singing with him. They merged with him. The tabla and the tanpura, of course, the tanpura में से उनका सुर निकलता था. That pitch perfection that you mentioned. But when the harmonium and the tabla started, it almost felt as if they were, you know, they had blended together. So you see, when a child grows up, the different special characteristic features of his or her parents are always reflected in that child, right? So similarly, for a musician, especially a vocalist, the special features of the guru's singing or the guru's singing will invariably, it will come. It is bound to come. And but for me personally, even more than copying the gaiki, I always thought that his discipline, his principles, his philosophy behind all that, you know, I wanted to, you know, touch them. I wanted to grasp them. And I know that it's going to take a lifetime for me, and I'm ready for that.
And incidents like these become life lessons.
Yes.
Thereafter, you were the first recipient of the Maniman Fellowship, which led you to take advanced lessons from Pandit Dinkar Kaikni and Vidushi Malini Rajurkar. So what was the experience of learning from artists from different Shishya Paramparas like, and how has this experience enhanced your repertoire?
I think I was extremely fortunate because I never thought of going to anybody else than my own guru. I was so full of, you know, learning, and I loved what I was learning, and I loved to do what I was, gaining. But when this fellowship came along, and I was, I didn't know. I asked my Guruji. I said, "What to do, bhaiya?" So he said, you can go to any guru that you want. So I said, I don't know. I have always been here and I know only you. You have to tell me what I should do. So he said,
Right.
okay, why don't you go request Pandit Dinkar Kaikini ji? Because he had more than once he had come to Delhi to the Vidyalaya to you know give workshops, and I was one of the participants that time.
Okay.
So he knew that I was Bhaiya's student, and he had heard me also. But when I wrote to him, so I asked Bhaiya, I said, why don't you tell him? He said, no, 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 it's your duty to request him, and to him and to whoever you want to go. So then I wrote to him, and he said, okay, you send me your a concert recording if you have. And with trepidation in my heart, I sent him a Puriya Dhanashri that I had sung somewhere. So, and
Okay.
I thought, but bas ab to ho gaya, ab to he is not going to call me. But then a few days later, my Guruji said, kya hua? Did you write? I said, yes, I did. So now you call him up to ask whether he would accept you or not. So I called. He said, okay, when are you coming? So somehow he appreciated what was doing, what I had already learned. And
Right.
he called me to Bombay. But you see, with fellowships, the thing is that it is for a limited duration.
Right.
So it was only for a year, and I could go to him and to Maliniji a very few times. Because of the fellowship, I could go to them. And similarly, when I went to Maliniji, and when I asked Maliniji, she said, you are Madhubji's disciple, and only because of this, I am going to accept you for this duration of period. But I can't give
Right.
you more than 2 hours every day. I said, 2 hours is a lot. And you won't believe what benevolence from such great musicians. I used to spend my whole day with both of them, both at Pandit Dinkar Kaikiniji's residence and at Malinji's house. And like a daughter, the whole day she would
Right.
sit and teach me, and then she will say, na ab to gala thak gaya hai, have some coffee. And then she'll bring some coffee, and I was very embarrassed about all that. But she would, all through the day, she would talk about music, and she would sing, and she would teach.
Right.
So I feel that I'm extremely fortunate to be able to go to them and learn from them.
Correct. Um, you have been teaching at the Gandharva Mahavidyalaya for a couple of decades now. Tell us about that experience.
Well, it started very informally, very, very informally. Like Bhaiji said, I had just finished my post graduation in Sanskrit, and I got
Right.
married. And this was in 91. And Bhaiji said, Ab kya karegi? So I said, I really don't know. I've not thought about it. He said, Kal se shuru kar. So from the next day, this was in 91, July 15th, I
Right.
started teaching. And he had given me only one class, and that was the beginner's class, the first year. And that first year went on to the till the 6th year, the Visharad class. And then you know, uh, they finished there, they completed their Visharad, and then went on to the Alankar class. That was the equivalent to the postgraduate class. And it was during that time my Guruji said, Ab Alankar sikha. And I said, Alankar ko sikhao? I am not that, I don't have that experience. He said, हाँ हाँ मैं बता दूंगा. So,
Right.
so this was again another journey, teaching. And so after their completion of Visharad, they came to the Alankar class, and I started teaching the postgraduate classes. And it went on. You see, now this year I have finished 30 years of teaching.
Right.
at the Vidyalaya. But I have been teaching elsewhere also. Like I taught Sanskrit at Lady Shri Ram College.
Yes.
I taught Sanskrit and performing arts at Ashoka University, and as
Yes.
visiting faculty, I also went to NID, National Institute of Design. So teaching, I have been teaching for so many years,
Right.
and yeah.
Yes. You even learnt Vedic chanting from Srimati Gauri Dharmapal in the lineage of Pattabhirama Shastri. So this interdisciplinary background of yours has led you to experiment with raga-based compositions in the Sanskrit language. Can you explain the thought process that went behind it all? Because there already were compositions sung in Sanskrit already in the tradition. It was part of the canon. It was sung in a certain manner, and you have your disagreements with that, right?
Yes, yes, yes. See, when a classical musician sings a Sanskrit uh, bandish or a Sanskrit text, the whole focus is on the swaras, as it is in the for the khyal and drupad. The most
Right.
of the focus is on swaras. But if you are singing a Sanskrit text, the pronunciation of the texts are of utmost importance, which does not mean that you deviate from your focus on the swaras. You are there. The swaras are of utmost importance, yes, but the pronunciation is of equal importance. And with the pronunciation comes the the artha, the purport, the meaning of the text. Because
Right.
normally we sing in Hindi. Khayal and Drupad compositions are mostly in Hindi, Brajabhasha.
Yes.
So, which is not very difficult to understand. But when you are singing in Sanskrit, first is pronunciation, second is you have to understand what you are singing, which has not always the case with classical musicians.
Right.
It has, let's face it, but because I had a background in Sanskrit, and I have studied under great teachers, and Professor Gauri Dharmapal was one of my greatest teachers, from
Right.
whom I studied Vedas, Rig Veda,
Right.
and she had in her times, say about more than 50 years ago, she had learnt chanting of Rigvedic mantras from Pandit Pattabhiram Shastri. So she made
Of
it a
Kashi.
point of Kashi. When she used to teach us, so if she would teach a sukta, for example, if she would uh, teach Agni Sukta, the first Sukta in the Rig Veda, she would first make us chant that. And on the particular swaras, Udatta, Anudatta, and Swarita, which are designated for those sukta, for those mantras. So the first half an hour of every class we used to chant. And by the end of the class, the whole sukta, the whole compilation of the hymns were by heart. So we didn't have to look into the books while
Right.
studying. So this is how I studied the Vedic scriptures. So after that, when I came back to this 3 years, I went to Kolkata and studied under her when I was studying in college, Lady Brabourne College. Then I came back to Delhi and continued my post graduation in Sanskrit and my learning from my Guruji, Bhaiya Madhurji.
Right.
So I I never knew that it was, it was developing on its own, because in the Gwalior Gharana also, that uh, devotion is a very strong
Yes.
aspect, which Pandit Vishnu Digambar Paluskar himself started.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then, of course, Pandit Kumar Gandharva, he revolutionized
Yes.
the
With the
devotional
Nirguni
aspect
bhajans, right?
with the Nirgun and also Sagun bhajans. Nirgun and Sagun bhajans were not sung on classical platforms
Yeah.
like the way Kumarji did. So I
Right.
already I was exposed to this kind of devotional singing. And when I was growing up, I watched my Guruji to compose Sanskrit texts for his sister, who's also a very famous Odissi
Right.
dancer, Madhavi Mudgalji. She used to compose choreograph on Sanskrit texts. So I watched my Guruji compose them and sing them, and sometimes he would make us sing also.
Okay.
And then, of course, as a student of Sanskrit who has this vast, uh, the poetry in Sanskrit, and the vast Vedic texts, the texts of Upanishads, then the Ashtapadis, and then Shankaracharya's Ashtakam, and
Right.
Nirvana Shatakam, then Vallabhacharya,
Right.
huh? Madhurashtakam.
Right.
These all they just I never did them. I never sung them, or I never composed them, knowingly that these are Sanskrit texts and I have to compose them. No, no, not like that.
Mm.
It was a natural process. It was a very natural
Right.
process that, because of my background in Sanskrit literature and in classical music, the raga sangeet, I was trying to combine, I was trying to find an amalgam
Right.
between the two. So it was like that.
So, is Sanskrit a friendly language for performing raga music? I mean, does it hinder improvisation? For example, how should an artist approach Behlava yet keep the Hraswa and Dirgha in the scansion intact if he or she were to perform a bandish in the Sanskrit language? I mean, I have heard you perform Sanskrit bandishes, and uh, all who are watching, you may go on to her YouTube channel and watch her give lecture demonstrations on Sanskrit chanting, watch her perform bandishes in Sanskrit, and they are absolutely fascinating. Please do. Yes.
Thank you, Chitrayud. See, when you are singing Sanskrit compositions, like I said, the pronunciations has to be exact, correct, perfect. But when I'm particularly singing a Sanskrit composition in the form of a khayal,
Right.
like I have done a few times, there are, a few limitations which we come across. Like the Chayanat Bandish that you have heard, the Vilambit Chayanat Bandish. Uh, the text is Sakala Kala Laya Nadam, Swara Laya Nilaya Prasadam, Bhaje Anavaratam Tvam. नाद ब्रह्म स्वर सैराह्लादम विगलित निरवधि वाद विवादम भजे अनवरतम त्वाम. Now, सकल कलालयनादम स्वरलय निलय प्रसादम सकल कलालय नादम स्वरलय निलय प्रसादम भजेन वरतं त्वाम् सकल कला layanadam. Now the bandish is okay because I
Right.
will take care of the raswa and the dirgha and the joint syllables. But when I am, like you said, behlawa kaise kare? So because I have, these are the things I have been, I have started doing, and I'm sure it's going a long, going to go a long way.
Yes.
Like Sakala Kalalaya Nadam, maybe this can be improvised. But then Bhaje Anavaratam Tvam, how can I improvise? Sakala Kala Layanadam Sakala Kala Sakala Kala Layanadam. So limitations are going to be there, but I would like to find a way, you know,
Right.
how best we can use, how best we can uh, try and connect both,
Right.
because Sanskrit itself is a very musical language.
Absolutely.
Inherently it has musicality.
Right.
So we have to, and there I have seen the Pandit Ratanjankar ji's book. If you see, there are few bandishes in Sanskrit.
Yes.
But yes, but I have seen that sometimes there are, there is a difficulty in understanding what he's trying to say, because the
Right.
words will be very very simple, and words will be, maybe it's broken in in the middle. So we have to take care of that as
Right.
singers.
Right. So this brings us to a more fundamental question. What is the importance of text in raga music? Is it just some vowels and consonants arranged in an orderly manner that contributes to the texture of raga and tala, or does the semantic element in the poetry play a major role? For example, if you were to either sing a proper phrase in the raga in a beautiful manner or sing a proper lyrical phrase, uh, then which one will you sacrifice? It could be an incomplete sentence but still be a beautiful phrase melodically, or it could, you may have to cut that melodic phrase from within to keep the meaning of that, the linguistic meaning of that poetry intact.
Again, we have to find a balanced, beautiful way in this,
Right.
because पुराने ज़माने में, in olden times when musicians used to sing, they would sing uh, those mundane bandishes. You know why I say mundane? Saas bahu nanadiya,
Ah, right. Get it.
those bandishes. But it last 50 years, it has the field has, it has grown so much, and we now have such beautiful bandishes. Of course, swara, as I said, is of utmost importance. The rag roop is of utmost importance. If we were to just improvise without a poetry, without the lyrics, then we would have just done away with them. We would
Right.
not have, anyway, we would not have needed the bandishes at all. But
Right.
we do. You will agree. We do. We
Yeah,
need those
absolutely.
bandishes to, to structure our rag.
Absolutely.
So what I feel and what I have learned from my Guruji, that one must um pay attention to the bandishes, to the words of the bandishes. And again, I when we learn Kumaji's bandishes,
Right. They're of
Sar
very high
Garbha,
lyrical content.
Sar Garbha, that's what I'm saying, high lyrical
Exactly.
content. हाँ, भोपाली में ध्यान अब दीजो गुनीजन,
Yeah.
ध्यान अब दीजो सुरमिल ताल राग मुख तान ध्यान अब दीजो, ध्यान अब दीजो गुनीजन, सुर मिल ताल राग मुख तान. How better can you express
Absolutely.
than this? So I think that the poetry must be given importance, and one must not break in between just to uh, find a way through the swaras. No. Like many people I've seen that when they come to the sum, they don't complete the sentence,
Oh yes, yes.
which becomes so meaningless.
Yes.
So I think both the lyrics as well as the swaras of the rag, they have to be, they have to merge within each other to bring out the best
Right,
feeling or the bhav or the emotion.
right. You have authored two books. The first one is Music in Valmiki's Ramayana. Now, as we all know, Ramayana, like every other epic, has been written in the song form. In fact, originally, if I'm correct, they were meant to be sung.
Yes, they are.
Uh,
It is because it is within the narrative. Valmiki himself asks Lava and Kusha to sing the Ramayana, and
right,
he tells them, "He sing the way I have taught you." Touching the marga, touching the
right,
grammar and the sthana. So Valmiki himself, within the narrative, the protagonists, they are singing the Ramayana.
right. However, the singing of Valmiki's Ramayana in Sanskrit is not a living tradition, but we do have uh, Ramayana in regional languages sung by bards and minstrels, which is part of the folk tradition. That is
Absolutely. And not only in India, all across
Southeast Asia also.
Southeast Asia, Ramayana is sung in their own languages. So Ramayana, Adi Kavi's, Valmiki's Ramayana was meant as a Marga Sangeet, as a classical
Right,
format. So they were sung in the classical format, but now they have moved on to the local dialects, local
right,
languages, local tunes, folk tunes, and they have lived on for
right.
millennia.
And your second book is Indian Women Seers and Their Songs, An Unfettered Note. Uh, Even a couple of days back, I learned a richa composed by the Rishika Vagambrani from you. So you're very much into it. Does it affect you as a female musician that there are practically no female composers of raga music, a Vagyakara in the true sense? Compositions of Mirabai are sung as bhajans and not as bandishes. Even Thumri, which is penned from a women's perspective, is penned exclusively by men. So does it affect you as a musician?
I uh, I never I never thought about this gender inequality in this
Right,
particular field, because even the bandishes mostly, the I'm not talking about the older bandishes, but there are beautiful bandishes which have been composed by senior musicians, and we sing them, and talking about the supreme being, talking
right,
about God, talking about Allah, talking about nature. And look at Kumaji's bandishes. For
right,
every part of nature, Kumaji has bandishes.
right,
So I never felt that that women have never composed. But let me tell you, because senior musicians of today like Prabhat Reji or Ashwini Bhideji, They have their own compositions and they sing their
Right.
own compositions. Their students also sing their composition, their Guruji's compositions. So they are very much there. It's not that they are not there, but
It's a very modern
uh,
phenomenon.
it's a modern phenomena. It's, yes, it is. But regarding the women saints, like I said, that I had researched about the women saints, and it's not because I thought that why the women saints are not sung. No, that question was not there in my mind when I began the research. I
Right.
When I started looking uh, into the Rig Veda, I found that there are 27 women rishikas, and nobody was talking about them. Nobody was talking about their richas, and then they are equally beautiful as the other richas, other suktas. And as a student of music, I was singing Mirabai and learning and singing Mirabai, Kabir, Surdas, Tulsidas, Gorakhnath, Maluk Das. But at that some point of time, I thought that why there is only one Mira?
Right.
So there
Right.
must be other Miras as well. And then I found,
Exactly.
during my research, I found that there are 75 women saints all across our country who have sung their own songs, who have
Right.
sung their feelings for their own deities, for the love of their own deities. They have sung them in their own languages, in their own uh, local musical genre. And those songs are sung. Centuries old songs are still sung. So that was a revelation that came to me while doing this research. I think there is a network problem. Okay, I think there is a network problem, but till then, I can then also share what, like Mirabai, I found out about Akka Mahadevi of Kannada region, uh, Andal of Tamil region, Tarigonda Vengamamba of Andhra, Laldev
Right.
of Kashmir, Sija
Kashmir.
Layubi of uh, Manipur, and so many of them in Gujarat and Rajasthan and
Right.
Maharashtra. So there were so many women who were singing their own songs, and their song have lived on. They have lived on in the through the singing of the local people. So they
Right.
need to be, and in Andhra, they are sung in their own. Like when I was doing the research as a singer, as a I always used to learn the typicality of those songs. If it is a Tamil
Right.
song, how it is sung. If it is a Telugu song, how it is sung. If it's a Marathi
Right.
song, and how they are singing these songs. And I have written them down in the book also.
In Tamil, there was Andal, one of the Alvars. In Kannada, there was Yakshamadevi, so on and so forth. But they were all part of folk tradition. They never became part of classical tradition. Why was that?
Sorry, I didn't get you. Can you repeat, please?
Uh, all the music that came from these women seers are
Hmm.
part of our folk tradition, and they're highly respected for that. But they never became part of our classical tradition somehow. Any particular reason why?
No, I don't know, but songs of saints were never a part of classical repertoire.
Right,
It is only when Pandit Vishnu Digambar Paluskarji started singing devotional song, and then Pandit Kumar Gandharji, he started singing Sagun and Nirgun bhajans on classical music platforms, and then Pandit Vasavraj Rajguruji, then Pandit
right,
Mallikarjun Mansurji, they set to tune Akka Mahadevi and other Lingayat women saints songs, and they
right,
sang them. So, not many of the classical musicians have sung the bhakti songs. So, that may be
right,
one of
right.
the reasons.
In fact, I remember you singing some Gujarati song by a poetess, a Gujarati poetess, and I was completely taken over by that. I don't know the language, I don't understand the language, but I absolutely loved it. It was at some venue, I don't remember where, but I had heard you
Yes,
there,
yes, yes.
and I was
Um,
stunned.
I'm trying to remember. काचिराम कौन घड़ी तारी काया रे काचिराम के घड़ी मारी काया घटमा चांदण घटमा सूरज घटमा चांदण घटमा सूरज घटमा नवलख तारा रे कांचीराम कौन घड़ी तारी काया रे कांचीराम केम घड़ी मारी काया. I think this one.
Kya baat? Yes, this was the song. My final question for the night. So you have said devotional hymns to tune. So the poetry was by somebody else, and the lyrics was by somebody else. You put the tune to it. So how did you think about it? Because in any case, you belong to different eras, so uh, different historical periods. So how did you decide what you would tune, the raga you would choose, or the way you would tune the melody? How did you decide of lyricist to tune the way you would tune the melody?
I should say that it's never been easy. It's never been easy because there's such a great lineage that I have learned from. And whenever I tried to make something, whenever I tried to make my own tune, I thought that, oh my God, it's so bad. but and there was a time when I said, okay, I don't want to compose any bhajan. I'll just do what I have learned. And what you know and but then these Sanskrit texts, I started composing these because they were completely my own.
Right,
I was free to do what I wanted, remaining within the framework of classical rag music. I could do what I wanted to do, and I felt certain, even if a very little bit, but a certain kind of satisfaction doing that. But when I wanted to put tune to bhajans, I always thought, oh my God, my Guruji's bhajans are so beautiful, and Kumarji's bhajans are such heavenly bhajans. So what to do with all these? So I just chucked them out. But one or two of them I liked, and I like to sing also. But when I composed them, as in the sense I put tune to them, I didn't try to put tune to them. It just happened. So I was just like this Siddha Bhajo Omkar. Kumarji used to sing that, and he used to sing
right,
the way the Malvi Lokgit they used to sing in the Lok
right,
Dhun. But I don't know why I was some day I was just humming, and it was a different tune. I thought, oh my God, but from where has this come? I didn't know. First, I thought that I may have heard it somewhere. But no, Siddha Bhajo, I had not heard apart from Kumarji. So it had, it had come on its own. And then I found, okay, this is how I go about it. Then there was another Bhairavi bhajan. It was also, and I had a friend who used to play harmonium with me, and he's a wonderful singer himself, a Bengali musician. And I used to compose and sing and ask for his, because I was always very embarrassed to ask my Guruji's appreciation or something. But I always sung to my friend, the person who used to play the harmonium with me, and then he had a very
Right.
nice sense of musicality, and he used to say, "Ha, Didi, this is nice. You should do this. You should sing this." So this is how it. So I still feel that I have really a very, very long way to go in composing of bhajans.
Right. But what is your
But
take on bhakti in Indian classical music? How do you look at bhakti?
bhakti,
Bhakti.
well, I think it's all about bhakti. That's how I look at it. Because when I hear Kumarji, or when I have learned from my Guruji, he has taught me the intricacies of the swaras, how to utter a swara, how a swara is not just a swara, but it is a complete entity in
Right.
itself. And we come back again to the Tanpura,
Right.
where the
Absolutely.
Swayambhu Gandhar comes out from the
Ha,
Tanpura.
ha, ha, ha. Right.
Huh? And the swar has to come out from the Tanpura itself. So this is how I have learned to look at the swaras.
Right.
And I have learned to try to understand how the swaras. It's not just one of my friends who is also a musician, but he is a guitarist. So he once said, he's a very well-known musician, and he once said, "Ki kya karte ho? You are classical musicians all the time. You are singing Saregama Padanisa and Sani Dapa Magaresa. What do you have to? Why do you have to practice Aroh Avroho every time, every day?" I said, because
Right.
it's so difficult to get the correct swara, the correct pitch, the correct uh,
Right.
sound, which has to merge with the Tanpura, which has to come from within the Tanpura. It's so difficult. So I try. Because I know that to reach there, one has to do that exercise every day, every day.
Right.
So I think that this bhakti is not directed towards a deity, but I think the deity is
Right.
Swara.
Right.
So that's how,
The
if
bhakti is in the
even
primordial sound.
so, for me, I mean, it's happened with me. If I sing a khyal, somebody said, "Oh, such a wonderful bhajan you sang." I said, "No, no, no, that was not a bhajan." But the feeling is that of bhakti. I wouldn't say that. See, Thumri, it's an erotic feeling, and Dhrupad, then again, it's bhakti. Khayal, it can be bhakti or it can be anything else. But I want to look at it, and I have learned to look at it, and I really want to feel
Right.
it as the bhakti or as the samarpan to the swara. I think that is all about
Correct.
music.
Right. And your friends and acquaintances are commenting, and they are wishing you good health. Mr. Siddhartha Mitra
Thank
has
you.
written that prayers that Holy Mother may bless you on your musical journey. We'll conclude with that. It
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure having you on our show. Uh, Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
And
Chitrayud and Anirban and your friend,
yes,
Shru-
Sharnava.
Shorno Shornabho.
Sharnava.
Tha- Shornabho. Thank you so much, all three of you. It was a pleasure talking to you. My best
Thank you,
wishes
ma'am.
to you.
Thank you. Uh, so we shall meet again another Friday, some other week. As of now, good night. Take care. Stay safe. Goodbye.